What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This Week in the House of Fraud. Jordan Harris here, joined by Brian Davis. What's going on today?
I shared this story already last week, and my dog ran through our screen door. Frustrating. And then our son just started
How big
using
is
it
this
as a
dog?
dog door. It's a French bulldog. So
Okay.
it's
You
a
would have a French
bowling
bulldog.
ball. Right, I know. I have two to make it worse. And then my son started using it as a doggy door, just in and out, in and out. And we're like, all right, our son's using it in and out. Our dogs are going in and out. We can't just get a new screen. And then it got to the point where it's like, it's really bad. So like, all right, I'm gonna buy a door. We're gonna finally buy a door. I mean, screen doors really aren't, relatively to everything else of owning a house, is next to nothing. So we're like, all right, fine, we'll finally get a screen door. So I go online and I go to buy one. I want it shipped, obviously, because I don't have enough time to go to the grocery store. Never mind, go pick up a door. But it was $80 to ship a door. It was almost double the price just to get it delivered to me. So
Jesus.
I'm going to pick it up. I had something to return at the store anyway. I brought my son because he loves going to those types of stores because there's just so much going on. There's so much activity. He's really into that type of stuff. I mean, he's a 2-year-old, so cars, trucks, construction work, all that is cool to him. I am training him to pick weeds. He gets pumped to pick weeds. So that's like a good hobby to have. But we get to the store, and obviously at the customer service, like the return section, there's always a line because they're always understaffed. There's just one person working there. So we wait our time. I'm trying to corral a 2-year-old to just stay and wait in line and understand how excited he is that he has to stay. So we do the return. That was pretty easy. I had the receipt because I wasn't sure what we bought before, if it was going to work or not. So smart enough, keep the receipts, super easy for the people. Then I'm like, hey, I also have an order. I just ordered it. I want to pick that up as well. So they're like, we just need a phone number. I said, perfect. Here's a number. There was no validation or anything. It could have just been any number.
Didn't ask for the credit card. Didn't ask for the
didn't ask for
ID.
any of that. Nothing. Just like, hey, here's a number. They said, perfect. We see this. Is this what you got? And I said, yeah. And they said, all right, just stand right here. Someone will bring it up to you. I waited, and then the person saw my son going crazy and me trying to corral him continuously. So it's been a couple minutes. They're like, hey, I don't know if anyone's coming. You can go back and grab it. And I'm like, can someone just come? Like, I was a little frustrated at this point. I'm like, I've been waiting. You can see this is going to be really hard for me to carry a door right now. But you know what? I got to get out of here. All right, where is it? And they printed me off a little piece of paper. I walked to the back. I found my door. I picked it up, carried it, had my son pretend to carry it with me to keep him active and occupied. We got to the door. I'm like, hey, bud, we're going to the street. For some reason, whenever we cross the street here, him and I almost always get hit. I don't know why. It's a parking lot, so it's not fast, but
it's Boston.
No, we're Cape people. We're not even in the city. We're like an hour or so away from the city. So I put the door down right at the exit. I pick him up, and he goes, Dada, you got to pay. You buy door. And I'm like, oh, bud.
In front of everybody?
I already bought it. Like, here's the receipt. But no one's around. I walked right out. No one checked it. No one verified. It was just a piece of paper that I could print off on my own at home. It could have been a blank piece of paper for what anyone knew. I just walked in the back and I walked straight out. No one stopped me. No one looked at me. No one asked to even help me, to say, like, it looks like you got a lot going on. Can I help you, sir? And I walked right out. So during this, there are actually two scenarios that stood out to me of like high risk activity. One, the one that I just said, print off a piece of paper. It just is a very, very simple piece of paper, and just go right out in the back, grab whatever you need, that porcelain toilet, bring it on out, roll it right up, right through the door. Anyone stops you, I got this ticket. And you're on and out. They say, okay, have a good day, sir. The other one is, I had someone print it off for me. All I needed was a phone number. It could have been mine. It could have been yours. It could have been a friend's, anyone's phone number, and just testing credit cards. And I just put in a phone number. This is where the mule
stuff comes in. Yeah.
Mule, or even just don't care about mule. So it could be mule, could not be mule. where you just use these cards, you put in a phone number, you go to the front desk, someone helps you, they bring it on up for you, they check the phone number. So as I was walking through this, the little glimpses of trying to corral my son, that's where my brain goes of like, hey, this was actually, this would have been very easy for me to just leave with a door. And I had no idea. So I imagine retailers that operate like this, there's like, I, I can see a couple of the controls that are in place there, but it still is pretty easy. And I did some Telegram digging and not necessarily exactly what I did, but it's known some loops and lacking of
Yeah, I
control
think
or
that
lacking of enforcement at retailers like this.
there's always sessions at like all the conferences on the BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, that talk about the different things that can be done. Because the idea is, you want to have as low friction point as possible to get people to buy it online,
Yeah.
pick it up in the store. Like, Best Buy's great example of that is they don't want to lose their lunch to Amazon every single day of the week. So they try to make it like if you need something right now, you can buy it online. I do it with like Sonos speakers. I want a speaker right now. So
Yeah.
I'll buy it online and then I'll just run over there and grab it because I can have it right now. And there's always been, is it going to need to be the ID? Do you need to have the payment instrument? Because then people will freak out because they didn't bring their credit card or their mom bought it for them or something like that. There's legitimate situations where the pickup person might not necessarily have the actual payment instrument. But when the names mismatch and things like that, I think I think it needs to be a little more strict on that. You see it in like concert venues where there's smaller venues, like the Troubadour is a great example, is like they have like really high profile concerts that come through on a 400 person venue. So they say, if your name does not match what is on your tickets and you go inside, you are not entering this venue. Like you're just no entry. Like everything must
Yeah.
match. And I get why they do it, to try and dissuade like scalpers there. But with BOPIS stuff, it seems like they try to be there's two parts. Either they care too much or they care too little and they get ripped. I think that big box retailer is a big box home improvement retailer is a great example. Do you ever read anti-work on Reddit? Do you ever go on there at all?
I don't, but
So
now
it
I got to
is,
check it out after this.
you do. You have to. So I go on there on purpose just to look because it is a great collection. Like I'm not let me walk through this mentally for a second. So it's a collection of people who are minimum wage employees that do minimum wage work. That the mantra of that sub is act your wage.
Mhm.
So it's one of those where I'm picturing there might have been people saw you have that door walking through there. First of all, I think your kid probably helped it soften the blow a little bit that you probably weren't trying to smash and grab. So there's definitely some part of that.
Yep.
But at the same time, you'll see on anti-work a lot. There's a ton of minimum wage people are like, it's not my job to stop theft. I'm not putting my life on the line for some billionaire. Like that's the mentality of that particular sub. So there's got to be a little bit of that where like this person is just doing like the bare minimum on their job to get through the day. And if they say they don't got to check ID, it's not their problem if it's stolen at the end of the day. Now, if it was my store and I was the manager of that store and I was trying to like manage shrinkage, I would make it my problem and I would make it everybody's problem. But that's just me as a manager. And, I don't know how management works in those particular types of retail. So
Yeah.
I manage small retail, but not
The
large.
the other
But
one
yeah.
that stood out as a potential control was I did a return plus the pickup online. So there was information. So
Did the return go automatically to a credit card? They just give you a pile of cash
automatically to the card that was on file for
used.
that transaction.
Okay.
So
So
there
they
was
did
no
just push it back
verification of
ARN
it,
number.
but
Yeah.
yeah, push it right back to what I spent it on. But seeing that was just here, information matches information on order. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I bet you there isn't like matching. This is the hard part with a lot of this is the front end tools and services and data aren't necessarily matching the back end stuff. So that makes it a little bit hard of like, I give it the benefit of the doubt. Like the data is probably there for them that they would be able to see the trends, patterns, and data. But in the
You know
front
what I would
line
do?
real time, what?
I would just force 3D secure on every single BOPIS transaction, period. If it doesn't pass 3D secure, you ain't picking up shit. And then it kind
Try
of
to
eliminates
pass
the problem for
liability.
everybody. Yeah. Why not? But I do think that it's still a vector. And it's still send random, like somebody will buy something and then they'll send some guy in to go pick it up for them. That's not the person who made the purchase, just some mule. They'll pay him X amount of dollars to go and do it. BOPIS is still going to be a big vector if it's not being vetted correctly.
So if I wanted to become a better fraud leader overnight, the one skill that I would personally work on is setting expectations. And it's not necessarily fraud leadership, it's just leadership in general. Setting expectations, a lot of people miss on and aren't specific. It's not necessarily like the what, it's the how. And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily do exactly this, but it's within guardrails of allowing some autonomy and creativity for whoever you're
So,
working with, but
yeah.
having the expectation set of we need this done by Y. Here's how we can go about it, blah, 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 blah. But setting expectations of like a lot of times expectations aren't set with the goal, the timeline, or what is appropriate for guardrails for the how. And if you aren't clear and specific on what is good and what isn't good and where the autonomy does live, then it allows for either micromanagement, allows for people looking bad for reputation, it allows for frustration. It's just has this negative spin that just spirals out of control. So if I were to like just wake up tomorrow and be like, hey, I want to be better for my team, I am going through and kind of doing a check of like what have I said to my team in a while the last little bit? What is everyone working on? How are they working on it? When do they think they can deliver it? And when does the business need to deliver it? And then from me, like working with my team is working that backwards of what's blocking them, what obstacles are in the way, what resource do they need? Do they need me to connect them with someone else? Then that's where I come in as like the support role of getting
That's
it done in the time frame. But again, if there's no expectation set, no one knows necessarily what to ask or when to ask, or okay, Brian's going to follow up with Jordan on Wednesday because it needs to be done on Friday. Jordan has no idea it was due Friday. So me following up on Wednesday is a pain in the ass to you.
so this what I do with my staff, and I've done it for years, is if we have a project of some kind, I tell them the end state of what I want it to be, what I want it to look like, or how I want it to be. Now, sometimes visually, that's harder to convey. So I tell them what I want it and when I want it, and how they get there is on them. But they know and they're told that if there are blockers, like you said, along the way, to contact me immediately because that's my job is to remove the blockers to enable them to accomplish that goal at the end of the day. And um, when I give a deadline, like my team knows, like if I say a date, like it's important, like it
Yep.
needs to be done on that date. So what I've done in the past myself, when I've been put in the same situation that I put them in, is I'm pretty regular with check-ins. I just did it recently. We just had our QBR for each of our departments goes to our CFO. So I had 3 slides in there that I needed to do. So what I did is I built the slides the way that I thought that would convey the story of my department appropriately. But I did a check-in with his assistant to say, hey, what do you think? Does this convey what you guys are after with the goal of this QBR? And he came back with notes, and then I changed it, and then he came back with more notes, and then I changed it, and then he came back with more notes. And I told him to change it himself, so he did, but because it was like font, and I'm like, bro, like if you go and put the fonts in the size of the way you want, like do that. But it was a check in along the way to make sure that I am correctly building what the expectation is. In my team, I want them to do that, and I expect them to do that with me because there's been plenty of times where they like overdo it, like they're trying to do too much. And I'm like, it's like that say less meme, It's like do less on this. I don't need every granular piece of data all the time. I'm just trying to find out like what my split is between fraud and non-fraud and the win rates on each, like just super. I don't need to know, okay, well in Singapore it's this, in Japan it's this, over here if you buy online and pick up in store, it's this. Like if I want to know more, we can go deeper later. But for the sake of like this argument, like I just try to do that but I want the check-ins along the way. But it's always should be like a great example is I actually was trying to get chargeback data earlier in the year, right around the first of the year. We wanted to see what our split is because it's evolving, and then I wanted to see what our lead time is from when we sell something to when we get the chargeback. What the average is, like in 30 days, we get like 96% of chargebacks, that sort of thing, you know. So I was trying to figure out like I could do budget forecasting easier if I know by the time the money's going to hit my account. So I gave a project to a person on my team and they were struggling a little bit with the deadline and where to start. And I think I checked in like 3 days later and they're like, oh, I don't have anything yet. And I'm like, just call our payment processor and ask them. And he's like, oh, that's a good idea, huh? I'm like, just call our payment processor and ask if they got it. Outsource what I outsource to you, outsource to them, and then see if we can figure it out there. But like, those are the things. It's like, and I tell my team, I'm like, I'm not going to ever call you stupid or say you're dumb or I can't believe it if you don't know where to start on a task I give you. If I give you a task and you're like sitting there and you have like you deer in the headlights, where do I start? To say, hey, Jordan, any idea like where I should kind of start? Happy to give what I think is the right place to start. You go explore that, and then maybe it'll lead you down another path, you know. But like, I like people that ask questions. I am super into people that are open with what they don't know and want to learn and become better. But me as a leader, it is my job to help them, only to help them get to their goal at the end, whether it be a task I gave them or whether that be another larger thing that they're doing on their normal day-to-day basis that they're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it fits into like as I'm planning for resources, whether it's financial or human resources, it's like, all right, if you're spending all this time over here and you're overdoing it, that overdoing is coming out of something else. The reality is that's not their only task. That this isn't your
Mhm.
only task, your
And
only
that's
person to
where it
run
comes
up after.
in. Yeah, and it comes into the same thing is like if I give you a task and you don't have the bandwidth to do it, I need you to communicate with me too that, hey, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. Cause then maybe I can delegate to something else. Or better yet, maybe I can take a look at what you are currently working on and help you prioritize the things that are currently on your plate and help you maybe delegate to some of your additional staff other things that need to go over there too.
Or
You
the
know,
third
like I,
one,
I
I can't get it done by
quit.
Friday, but well, maybe if they really are sick of you checking in. But if I can't get it done Friday, hey Jordan, I can get it to you by Tuesday night, end of day. Like, is that okay? And you could say yes or no. You might be like, no, sorry, like Monday's the latest. Can we shuffle things around?
Yeah.
Or it has to be done Friday.
Great
Like, if you
point.
can't do it, that's okay. I'm gonna see if someone else is on the team can do it first. And if they can't, like, I'll work with you on prioritizing what can get kicked to next week or the following week, next quarter, whatever it may be. Same thing goes
Me-
for like you check in and it's like, hey, Brian, we said this was going to do Friday. It's kind of seemed like you're lagging behind. When do you think this is really going to get done? Like, oh, I might be able to do it. You ask a couple questions. It's like, you know what? It sounds like this isn't going to be done until next week. Like, let's be honest. Is it going to, like, will you actually be able to do
yeah.
it this week without like overworking, working 60, 80 hours, finding the balance of actually doing it and doing it well? And then it's like, yeah, I can't do it until Tuesday. And the same conversation. But that's why the check-in comes appropriate of setting expectations on when it's due, so it sets expectations to work backwards of when it's okay to check in, when it's too soon. Again, this is communication style. Like
Yeah.
I might want you to check in every day and do a daily message. And you might be like, don't talk to me until 48 hours out. Don't talk to me. I don't care when it's due. If the project's a month out, that's fine. Don't contact me until 48 hours. That's it. And I can get this done with it. Like you have to understand the dynamics of your situation. I say a little bit more
Yeah.
extreme for both of those to just polarize it. Most of the time, it's neither of those, but understanding how your team fits into those communication styles to work backwards. For me, it's setting expectations without a doubt of anything else because I think a lot feeds off of that. Like, hey, I have a bad manager. It's like, they're unclear. I don't really know what they like. I don't know if they like me. I don't know if they hate me. I don't know if they love me. I don't know if they appreciate me. I don't like I dread my one-on-ones. It's just kind of like task this. If I just it's like a checklist and we're not really doing anything. It's the setting expectations for me where at least for me, my style, like I work backwards from that and I can kind of reallocate that I got a new like little checklist thing.
You got a
Uh,
physical fucking checklist?
yeah, because I'm like a sticky note kid, but sticky
So,
notes become like a disaster. This is like a daily one, and it's actually been working because I have way more space on a sticky note and I can rip it and go. I
oh,
had it in Notion for a while, and then Notion's good for like when I'm thinking, so I don't have to text myself all day. But then I forget to open up Notion for a few hours, and then I'm like,
dude,
"Ah, shit, I was supposed to do this." So it's because this is always in front of me wherever my laptop goes, and for
that's
me,
funny.
it works.
So yesterday we had our directors gathering, and we had this exercise where we all had to guess what the top 5 strategy initiatives are for a company in the near term. And they're like, "Hey, Jordan, you want to write?" I'm like, "I haven't like written in like 3 years." It's like I don't even know what my handwriting
What
would
about
look
the
like
check to
right
your
now.
pool guy?
Uh, oh, I made him do Zelle. I made him do Zelle. So I
Uh,
did it one time. I did have to write a check though. You're right. You're right. I did. So I have this thing called the mosquito squad, and they come every 3 weeks to spray kill all the bugs like the mosquitoes. It's
yeah,
devastating down here right now. I got to write them a check, but I only have to write the amounts in. But for notes, I actually use the Mac Notes app because it is in the cloud now. And so I have all my phone, I have my iPad, I have both my laptops, always have all the notes. And you can do like little check boxes now and everything
yep.
on it. Like it's pretty dynamic. Like it's
You
basically
can
Evernote for
scan the
free.
images into like
Yeah.
PDFs too.
Yeah. That's how I do my expense report receipts for both businesses. So yeah. Yeah. Real quick, it's on your notes. Let's while we wrap this up, we got like just we're gonna talk about it for 2 minutes. Let's talk about the MRC email that we have in the thing right now, just talking about exploit. It's called exploitation of the dispute process last 30 days. It's talking about people abusing the dispute process, which we all know is happening. I don't think it's any shock there. One of the things they talk about in here is people like taking fake photos, basically buying, like, let's say buy a laptop and then supplying a photo of it being broke. And even though it's not, they just grab the photo from online or somewhere else. Um, we do see that happen at iHerb with damaged packages. And then we look it up and it hasn't even arrived yet.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool. But one of the things that stuck out to me on here was people using different reason codes. And I just want to call out a couple of card companies. There's one that starts with a A and rhymes with Amex, and another one that starts with a P and rhymes with PayPal. But they do allow you to reopen a case under a new reason code, same transaction. So have you ever seen that? Because they do.
I have not.
They love it.
I have not.
Amex lets you do it, I think, one time. PayPal is an unlimited number of times. So that's fun.
Interesting.
Unless they've changed that in the last like year and a half. Yeah.
Interesting. So I'll say the two
So
things that stood out to me on that like alert announcement, whatever you want to say from MRC, is the lack of clarity on a specific risk profile, all card types, low net worth, high net worth, card present,
yeah.
card not present, across different categories. So it's not necessarily like a single target, single attack. It's
Yeah,
just
they're not
like,
trying to buy shoes anymore. They're trying to get anything they can get from anybody that they can get it from.
which makes it hard of like true signals and data. Like if you're thinking about what protections to put out, usually you need specific data points. When you don't necessarily have specific data points, it brings in a lot more noise, which makes it really hard to finding that balance. The other thing I liked was they put together a list of recommendations. I'm not going to read them all, but specific metrics, KPIs to look for to at least
Yeah.
have some insight into you should know these. If you don't
I'll throw it up on the
know
screen. I'll
these,
put the list on the screen.
okay.
Like I'll just
I
grab
think it
that
was
one piece
a
and
really good job of recommending those because at least it's like
yeah.
you might not be able to have a specific trend that we say looks across all these different industries, but you on your own specific site this is a starting point, and it's not what I like specifically is it's not just one
Yeah.
metric, it's multiple metrics, and to kind of give slightly
So
different perspectives of it to say, "Is this a problem we are seeing today, and where do I start for uncovering the impact?"
so we do a couple of these already. We do refund to purchase ratio. So we
Mhm.
monitor that. And we do a customer lifetime refund rate. Now that can be interesting because you don't want to do it on dollars when like normally you track customer lifetime value in dollars. You don't want to do that on refunds because if you have like a threshold of like $1 million in refunds, for example, and the person buys, $100 million worth of stuff a year, like it's going to look bad if you only look at the one flat number, but you need to look at the ratio. So it needs to be a ratio. Um, but one of the metrics that we track on my team specifically, Jordan's, is we have a separate metric for chargebacks received that had a previous denied refund
Mhm.
request. So that way we can attribute that to, hey, the driver of this was that we denied a refund. And I will tell you, one of the things that's super shocking is when you deny a refund, you don't get as many chargebacks as you think you would. So just leaving that out there for the world.
I'm
It's
curious
okay
if
to
that
deny
would
more
trend
refunds.
across, like, because obviously Jordan's world, we're all living in it. But
It's
if
right.
other retailers, e-com sites, whoever really starts denying chargebacks because I want to live in Jordan's world, then
It's a pretty good
like
world.
what the impact would really be.
So that's a good takeaway, everybody, for this episode. Is go back if you're a merchant listening to this, check out your chargebacks that you've received that had a previous denied refund from the customer service team or wherever, however you do your refunds, and see what the percentage is. See if it's high, if it's low. Ask your peers, put your messages in the comments below, and see if we can get some stuff. And that's just for people in House of Fraud, by the way. Only discuss it in there. To and see if you can benchmark yourselves and see if we can figure out what the average is. Inquiring minds want to know. So that's
Always.
all we
And
got
if you
this
want to
week.
be a part of these conversations and not just listening to them, hit apply, and we'll see you on the other side.
Bye, everybody.